I hadn't seen my mom in 5 years. Ever since the divorce, she'd been living in her home country while Dad moved us across the ocean, and I stayed with him. The distance between us grew into something thicker than miles. Calls became rare, messages became short, and when I thought about her, it was through a fog of old memories rather than anything recent. But I couldn't shake the guilt. So when I finally saved up enough money and time, I booked the flight. A 2-week visit, nothing too long, nothing too overwhelming. I told her I just wanted to see her, but deep down, I wanted to measure the damage. See if we could still fit together, even awkwardly. The moment I stepped out of the airport, I spotted her. She was thinner, sharper in the face than I remembered. Her hair was darker too, straighter, almost like she'd tried to make herself into someone else. But when she saw me, she smiled wide. And for a second, I felt like I was 10 years old again. She hugged me so tightly, I felt her bones shift against mine. "Welcome home," she said. The city didn't feel like home. It smelled damp, heavy, like wet stone and metal. But she was here, and that was enough. We spent the evening walking, catching up in awkward bursts of conversation that smoothed out the longer we talked. By nightfall, she said she wanted to take me out somewhere fun. Just the two of us, like old times. She led me into the narrow streets, lit by buzzing neon signs and dim lamps, until we found a crowded bar tucked away in an alley. Inside, it was hot and loud, packed with locals, the air thick with sweat and cigarette smoke. We sat in a corner and ordered drinks. She laughed. She talked. She told stories about neighbors and co-workers I didn't know. For the first time in years, she felt like my mom again, not just a voice carried across long-distance calls. We had more drinks than we should have. My head spun, but I remember her face, flushed and happy, like she was relieved to finally have me there. At one point, she leaned across the table, as if she wanted to say something serious, something important. I leaned in too, waiting. But she just smiled and said, "I'm so glad you came." We left sometime after midnight. The air outside was cooler, the streets emptying. I remember laughing about something, holding her arm as we walked. Then I glanced away for just a second to look at a car creeping past too slowly, its headlights sliding across us. And when I turned back, she wasn't there. I froze, looked around. The street wasn't crowded. It wasn't like she could have slipped away in the mass of people. I called her name. No answer. I hurried back toward the bar, checked inside. Nothing. Checked the street again. Nothing. It was as if she had been swallowed by the night. I told myself she must have gone back to her apartment. Maybe she felt sick. Maybe she wanted to lie down. I forced myself to calm down and walk there. But when I arrived, the building was dark, the door locked, and she didn't answer when I knocked. I used the spare key she'd given me. Inside, everything looked normal at first. Her shoes were by the door. A cup of tea sat on the table, still faintly warm when I touched it. It was like she had just been here. I checked her bedroom. The bed was unmade, but not slept in. And then I noticed the mirror. It was cracked, splintered from the center like something had struck it hard. But there was no rock, no object, nothing that explained it. I stood there staring at my warped reflection, feeling like the room was breathing around me. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I went to the police. I told them my mom was missing, that she had vanished suddenly, that I didn't know what else to do. They asked the usual questions. Was she drinking? Did she use drugs? Did she have enemies? I said no to all of it. They took notes, but I could tell from their eyes they weren't going to do much. Grown adults go missing all the time, they said. Maybe she left on her own. Maybe she'd be back. I walked out of the station with my chest full of anger and fear. She wouldn't just disappear like that. She had been fine. She had been happy. I started searching on my own. I retraced our steps from the night before, going back to the bar, asking if anyone had seen her leave. Most people shrugged. One bartender said he thought she'd stepped outside with me, and that was it. No one else remembered her. The city felt strange. The streets seemed longer than before, the alleys darker. I kept noticing things out of the corner of my eye. Someone standing too still at the end of the block. A car idling with its headlights off. A shape in a window staring down at me. But when I looked directly, it was always gone. That night, I sat in her apartment again, searching for anything, any clue she might have left. I found her phone charger, but no phone. Her wallet was there, her keys, everything except her. And then I noticed something strange. Across the street, in the building opposite, one window curtain moved. Just slightly. Like someone had been standing there watching me. I froze. The curtain dropped back into place. I told myself it was nothing, just paranoia. But when I looked again, I saw it. A shape. A figure standing there in the dark behind the curtain. Watching. I tried to ignore it. Tried to tell myself I was imagining things. But the next morning, when I looked out again, that same curtain was drawn back just enough for me to see the faint outline of someone sitting by the window. I decided to go over. The building was older, run down. The stairwell smelled of damp wood and mildew. I climbed slowly, heart pounding, until I reached the door directly opposite my mom's apartment. I pressed my ear to it. At first, silence. Then, faintly, the sound of movement, breathing. I knocked. The sound stopped. No answer. I tried the knob. It turned. The apartment inside was nearly empty. No furniture except for a single chair in the center of the room, facing the window. And on the walls, hundreds of photographs. Photographs of my mom, her at the market, her walking home from work, her sitting at her table drinking tea. Some were recent. Some looked years old. There were even pictures of her sleeping, though I had no idea how anyone had gotten inside to take them. I felt sick. On the chair was something else, a cassette recorder. I pressed play. At first, static. Then her voice. "If you find this," she said, her voice trembling, "please don't keep looking for me. It isn't safe. They don't want you here. They don't want me here. Please, just leave." The tape clicked off. I stood frozen, heart hammering, staring at her face, staring back at me from 100 angles. And then, I heard it. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, my pulse pounding in my ears. The apartment was dark, empty, at least it looked that way. The door was still ajar behind me, letting in the faint gray light from the hall. I stood still, listening. Nothing. The silence pressed on me so hard it felt like it might split my skull. Then another sound, softer this time. A faint scuff, like someone dragging their foot against the floor. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice cracked halfway. No reply. I backed toward the door, my shoes crunching on dust. The photographs rustled slightly on the walls, though there was no breeze. For one horrible second, I thought I saw the faces move, my mom's smile twitching, her eyes shifting to follow me. But I didn't look long enough to know for sure. I stepped into the hallway and pulled the door shut. The moment it latched, the sound stopped. Back in my mom's apartment, I shut the curtains and sat in the dark. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The recording, the photos, the watcher across the street, it all felt too much like some sick game. Whoever was doing this, they had been watching her for a long time. Maybe even planning. But why leave the tape for me? Why let me find it so easily? I hardly slept again that night. Every sound outside made me jolt awake. The next morning, I tried to act rational, retracing things step by step. My mom vanished after leaving the bar. She hadn't returned home. Someone across the street had been watching her for years, maybe more. That meant they probably knew where she'd gone. But whoever they were careful. I decided to search her things more thoroughly. I tore through her apartment, checking drawers, cupboards, even inside the fridge. In her bedroom, I pulled the mattress away from the wall, and a small envelope slipped out. My name was written on it. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. My mom standing in the same bar we'd been in that night. her hand on the table, her smile half-formed. But what chilled me was the background. Behind her, blurred by motion, was a figure, a man. His face was pale, featureless almost, except for the eyes, two black hollows staring directly into the camera lens. I flipped the photo over. Written on the back in messy ink were the words, "She doesn't belong to you." The room spun. I dropped the photo and stumbled back, my breath ragged. I didn't know who to trust anymore. That night, I went back to the bar. It was quieter, fewer people, the music softer. I asked the bartender again if he'd seen my mom leave. He frowned at me. "You asked me that already," he said. "Yes, I know. But did you notice anyone with her? Anyone following?" He paused. His eyes shifted. Then he leaned closer. "There was a man," he muttered. "Tall. Didn't order anything. Just stood in the corner watching. I thought he was with you." I felt my stomach clench. "Did you see his face?" The bartender shook his head. "Number. He left when she did. But..." He hesitated, his brow furrowing. "Now that I think about it, I don't remember him actually walking out. He was just gone." The way he said it made my skin crawl. I left the bar and walked the streets aimlessly, half hoping I'd see her, half terrified of what I might actually find. The city felt hostile now, like every alley was a mouth waiting to swallow me. Street lamps flickered overhead, buzzing faintly. Every shadow stretched too long. Every passerby glanced at me too quickly. At one point, I was sure someone was following me. Footsteps echoed behind me, keeping perfect rhythm with mine. I spun around, but the street was empty. Only the sound of dripping water from a pipe. By the time I got back to the apartment, I was shaking. I locked the door, shut every window, and sat in the corner with the photograph in my lap. Around 3 in the morning, I heard something. A knock. 3 soft taps at the door. I froze, holding my breath. Then again, 3 slow knocks. I stood up slowly, crept toward the door. "Who is it?" I whispered. No answer. I pressed my eye to the peephole. For a second, nothing. Just the empty hallway. Then a face appeared. Too close, too sudden. A pale face with hollow black eyes, filling the peephole completely. I staggered back, heart slamming against my ribs. The knocking started again, louder this time. The handle rattled, and then it stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When morning came, the hallway was empty. No sign of anyone. But wedged under the door was a note. I picked it up with trembling hands. It said in the same messy ink, "She's still alive. Do you want to see her?" That's the end for now. Like, subscribe, and also comment what you would do. Stay tuned for the next part. And don't forget to have a scary night.